merely because certain candidates for Hasnamas there have asserted that they could obtain something good for themselves by means of this sport, an assertion they believe with all their presence, have now, in the hope of attaining this same something, given themselves up entirely to that sport. None of these unfortunates know, and probably never will reflect, that not only is nothing good obtained by them from this maleficent sport of theirs, but they, as I've already told you, solely owing to this sport alone, still further shorten the duration of their existence, which is already sufficiently trifling without this, so that you may better represent to yourself and understand why the duration of their existence is being still further diminished on account of this sport. It is now opportune to explain to you a little more in detail about what I've already promised you to explain, namely the difference between the duration of being existence according to the Fulasnatamnian principle and according to the Itoklanos principle. You remember that when I explained to you how these favorites of yours define the flow of time, I said that when the organ Kundabuffer with all its properties was removed from their presences, and they began to have the same duration of existence as all normal three-brained beings arising everywhere in our universe, that is, according to what is called the Fulasnatamnian principle, they also should then have existed without fail until their second being body Kesdjan had been completely coated in them, and finally perfected by reason up to the sacred Ishmesh. But later, when they began existing in a manner more and more unbecoming for three-brained beings, and entirely ceased actualizing in their presences their being particadol duty, foreseen by great nature, by means of which alone it is possible for three-brained beings to acquire in their presences the data for coding their said higher parts. And when, in consequence of all this, the quality of their radiation failed to respond to the demands of the most great common cosmic trogo-auto-egocratic process, then great nature was compelled, for the purpose of equalizing vibrations, gradually to actualize the duration of their existence according to the principle called Itoklanos, that is, the principle upon which in general is actualized the duration of existence of one-brained and two-brained beings, who have not the same possibilities as the three-brained beings, and who are therefore unable to actualize in their presences the said, foreseen by nature, particadol duty. According to this principle, the duration of being existence and also the whole of the contents of their common presences are in general acquired from the results arising from the following 7 actualizations surrounding them, namely from 1. Heredity in general, 2. Conditions and environment at the moment of conception, 3. The combination of radiations of all the planets of their solar system during their formation in the womb of their productress. 4. The degree of being manifestation of their producers during the period they are attaining the age of responsible being. 5. The quality of being existence, similar to themselves, around them. 6. The quality of what are called the Teleokrimalnichnian thought waves, formed in the atmosphere surrounding them, also during their period of attaining the age of majority, that is, the sincerely manifested good wishes and actions on the part of what are called the beings of the same blood. And finally, 7. The quality of what are called the being egoplasticuri of the given being himself, that is, his being efforts for the transubstantiation in himself of all the data for obtaining objective reason. The chief particularity of existence, according to this principle itoklanos, is that in the presences of beings existing according to it, dependent upon the enumerated 7 exterior actualizations, there are crystallized in their being localizations, which represent in beings the central places of the sources of actualization of all the separate independent parts of their common presence, or, as your favorites say, in their brains, what are called bobbin candlenosts, that is to say, something that gives in the given localizations or brains a definite quantity of possible associations or experiencings. And so, my boy, because these contemporary favorites of yours, these 3-brained beings of the planet Earth, already arise only according to the principle itoklanos, therefore, from the moment of conception up to the age of responsible being, there are crystallized in their brains these bobbin candlenosts, with very definite possibilities of actualizing the process of association. For the greater elucidation of this question, and for your better understanding, and also not to waste time on explanations concerning the essence itself, and also the forms of functioning of such definite cosmic realizations as these just mentioned bobbin candlenosts, which are lawfully crystallized in the localizations or brains of those beings who exist only on the basis of itoklanos, I intend to take as an elucidating example just those jamtesternochi, such as your favorites also have, and which they call mechanical watches. As you already well know, although such jamtesternochi, or mechanical watches, are of different what are called systems, yet they are all constructed on the same principle of tension or pressure of the unwinding spring. One system of jamtesternochi, or mechanical watch, contains a spring exactly calculated and arranged so that the length of the duration of its tension from unwinding may be sufficient for 24 hours. Another system has a spring for a week, a third for a month, and so on. The bobbin candlenost in the brains of beings existing only according to the principle itoklanos corresponds to the spring in mechanical watches of various systems. Just as the duration of the movement of mechanical watches depends upon the spring they contain, so the duration of the existence of beings depends exclusively on the bobbin candlenost formed in their brains during their arising and during the process of their further formation. Just as the spring of a watch has a winding of a definite duration, so these beings also can associate and experience only as much as the possibilities for experiencing put into them by nature during the crystallization of those same bobbin candlenosts in their brains. They can associate and consequently exist just so much, and not a whit more nor less. As mechanical watches can act as long as the spring has what is called the tension of winding, so the beings in whose brains the said bobbin candlenosts are crystallized can experience and consequently exist until these bobbin candlenosts formed in their brains, owing to the mentioned 7 external conditions, are used up. And so, my boy, as the results of particajog duty were no longer thereafter obtained in the presences of your favorites, and the duration of their existence began to depend exclusively on the results of the 7 accidentally arranged external conditions I have just enumerated, then, thanks to all this, the length of their existence, especially among the contemporary beings, has become very varied. At the present time, The duration of their existence may,